And we live and back on my channel. Hey guys, welcome to Watch Your Mouth Reviews. This is your boy James, where I am here to give my honest review while trying to watch my mouth. It ain't gonna happen in this video, but that's all right. We'll live to fight another day. Joining me is my co-host, Mrs. Beth. Y'all say what's up to her.
Hello. Like, share, subscribe, all these good things, and we appreciate everyone for being here.
Yes, we appreciate you all for being here. Happy MLK Day. Unfortunately, I am not off today, but that's okay. We started a little early, so I get some rest before I go into work tonight. You know, MLK probably turning in his grave, but I just started my job, so I can't be taking off like this. But demands. Um, it is the inauguration today, but I'm not watching. So, if you guys are not here because of that, I completely understand, but I'm not going to be there. But make sure you guys are subscribing to my channel. And also while you're subscribing to me, please subscribe to Mrs. Best as well, because any recaps or reviews I don't cover on my channel, it's because we cover on her channel. We have Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. We have Love and Hip Hop, Atlanta and Miami that are currently on right now. So if you're interested in those shows or you want to see what our reactions are, go over to Mrs. Best channel. And while you're there, subscribe to my girl. She's trying to break 1,000, y'all. We on the road to 1,000. I'm right there in the passenger seat with her. So we getting there.
Thank
So
you.
no problem. Yes. Hey, Kevin Reynolds. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you being here. So overall, we are here for Love and Marriage Huntsville. This was very filler episode-ish. So, but we'll try to make it fun because they did say a lot without saying a lot. And y'all, this episode did kind of trigger me a little bit. So I'm not going to cover every single detail. And I'm sure if you guys have followed me for a while, you'll know which part I'm talking about. So the episode actually opens up with Nell, Chris Fletcher, and their kids, well, at least 2 out of the 4. They're going to look at the venue. It was given very much Sweet Home Alabama with Reese Witherspoon, the event space and everything. But they're renewing their 30-year anniversary wedding vows. They went to the courthouse originally when they got married. So this is Nell's big day to have a big wedding. She always wanted this. And we're happy to hear that. They go over everything. The kids are looking. Yes, it was. And I can't wait to get there. And they're looking around, they're looking at the seating. They're getting how many guest counts it would be, like how many of the guests can occupy the space. Good numbers. So the last, the baby son, which is, I believe, Chris Jr., he comes through and, they talk to the kids about what they're going to be doing for the wedding. And then Lance gives his DJ assignment to the youngest son because the youngest son is in music. And they ask him, well, what are you planning to do? And he tells them that we need to go to Grandma's grave. It's been some time since all of us have been there and we need to go. And immediately that triggers Nell because she has to remember that on her anniversary, her mother did pass. And that is extremely hard for anyone to have to go through. Remembering something great and accomplishing so many years of marriage having to be the memory that you lost one of your parents. So I can only imagine what this is like for her. So, Mrs. Best, how did you feel about the beginning scene?
I appreciate her being authentic, but I'm bored by this family. And I don't know. I was bored this whole episode, to be entirely honest. Like, I respect her pain. I appreciate her being vulnerable on camera. But at the same time, I also feel like Nell uses the death of her mom against people when it's convenient for her or as an excuse to her behavior while on this show. I feel like if she knows that she has not properly grieved, then she should take some time off from the show and go properly grieve. Because I do think her and Chris are one of the strongest couples on the show. So I do feel like they can take a step back and then come back once she figures some things out. Because it's a lot to process, but I don't know what it is with this show. Just long scenes of talking.
It wasn't so much of this scene, Kevin Reynolds, that made me think that Nell needs therapy. It was her scene with Trisha that made me feel like they both need to be in therapy. But yeah. But we're gonna go ahead and move on to that to the next scene because that was pretty much all they did in this scene. Next scene is Trisha taking her kids to the trampoline park, and they begin talking about what's coming up. And her son says, what's going on with you and Ken? Are you guys going to get married? And Trisha is very hesitant. She's like, not right now. And when she says not right now, it's making me believe once again that she's not completely over their dad as much as she claims that she is. And I feel like, and then also I feel like there's something about Ken that she doesn't like, that she's not going to admit because he does everything right. And I told y'all, I feel like this is the situation with Trisha. I feel like what Ken won't do, Marquez does do, and vice versa. What Marquez does not do, Ken does. So she's conflicted. And I can clearly see that. And I think the kids, at least that oldest one, he can clearly sense that too, that there's something not right with this situation that she's not going to put on camera. Mrs. Best, do you feel that way too?
Um, yeah, I also feel like this scene demonstrated that she is putting her kids in a situation where it's almost similar to kids being parentified, where they have to act as a parent. But I feel like Trisha's a little too comfortable talking to her kids about everything. And I said that when we saw her and Ken doing all that messy stuff at the boys' graduation dinner, because it seems like her son may have had to grow up fast emotionally and mentally. Um, I don't understand why she's talking about it. I just don't. Not with the kids, not to this extent. And that little baby looks just like the husband.
Yes.
But if you want to marry somebody, you'll marry them. I mean, it really is that simple. So the fact that she's not marrying Ken and her kids are even like, what's going on, tells me that she doesn't want to divorce Marquez. And I'll wait to reserve the rest of my opinion because she kind of went into more of it with who did she get emotional with?
Now,
Yeah, she went into
yeah,
it
I'm going
with
to talk about it.
yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about that scene. Yeah, and I agreed. I feel like for me, this does not match the conversation I don't remember who she had this conversation with about how the daughter was saying, oh, I think it was Ken, how oh, that's not my dad, that's just him, or that's Marquez or something. That daughter didn't seem like that to me in that conversation.
They are painting that daughter didn't, and you would know, especially with the little girl, she would have some type of attitude even at her
Yeah.
dad's name coming up, and she did not. I think that Trish and Ken are both liars. I think it's easier to see with her because she is the married person, but like I've been saying, the fact that Ken keeps dating married women and women that aren't available is a red flag. So I think he's just the shady and uses it as a way to make himself feel superior.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, so we can go into that scene. So Kim meets up with this friend. I can't think of this friend's name. I've watched this episode 5 times and I don't know this friend's name, but it's the messy friend that he got. They go to his little bar and they're talking, and Ken's letting out a lot of frustrations. He, feels like him and Trisha Marquez are still not going anywhere with this divorce. She signed the paper, she had him notarized, and he's like, what's going on? Why is this not, complete? And then they talk about the barbecue and how, how he was acting then. And Ken is just fed up because he feels like Trisha is not really 100% opening up about what that situation is. And then also in context, she's also keeping a lot of things where she's guarding herself. And I'm looking at Ken like, you don't see that as a red flag. You don't see that as maybe there's something more to the surface than what she's leading on. Like, to me, I feel like there's more. There's even probably more than a Martell situation that she's keeping under guard. And I feel like, to me, this is what you get for being with a married woman in the first place. I don't understand why you don't think, like, because she's not 100% available to you, that there wouldn't be more that she's probably keeping in guard or in close proximity of her. Once she doesn't trust, I don't feel like she trusts him. And this conversation made it evident because he looked like he's hard to trust. And I feel like also in the scene, and also in the scene as well, his friend giving that advice, I would see, once again, if Trisha didn't have any kids and Trisha was single, you giving him certain advice about how he should move, but no. I feel like he needs to remove himself from this situation. I feel like Ken needs to leave the situation, give Trisha a moment to where she needs to heal, and she needs to really understand herself, and she needs to go to therapy. That gym is not working. That gym is not working. She needs to go to therapy. But how do you feel about that, Mrs. Best?
Listen, if she wanted to be divorced, I keep saying the same things, she would get divorced. She's doing everything that she can to prolong the situation. You could have signed the papers when he gave them to you because there were cameras and witnesses present, and that would have been good enough. So I don't feel bad for Ken. And I feel like he chose the friend that's more likely to agree with
Mm-hmm.
how he feels to come on camera versus the friends that are probably telling him like, yo, she's married. Because you could tell his friend wanted to say more, but either didn't say it because they were on camera or felt like Kim wouldn't receive it. But
I think
I
it's
don't
more
feel
Kim
bad
than
for him. What the hell you expect when you get with somebody who got somebody else's last name? They still married. There was no file or paperwork for legal separation or nothing.
and then the papers that she did sign, she never filed them.
She
Do you
doesn't want
know?
to be divorced, and she's showing him in so many ways that she doesn't want to get married. Also, because she don't want to discuss that. Ken is just being hard headed, and that's the part that concerns me. I feel like he doesn't actually care for Trish all the way that he said he do. That's why he keep like alluding to potentially moving on and reminding everybody that he can walk away. I feel like he's toxic in the way that he may enjoy competing with other men.
Yes. Thank you for because I was gonna say that next. I feel like this is a competition. I feel like he wants to prove to Trisha he's the better man and the better pick. And somehow, some way, even though it's obvious that based on what he does, as far as monetary and maybe even some confidence, that he may be the better pick, but at the same time, you can't compete with history.
Yeah.
Because at one point or another, that man was all the things you were. And maybe it just slipped through the cracks. And maybe he just didn't have a really good solid foundation because y'all know how the people in the South are. Once you get pregnant, you got to get married. You got to, even if you don't have any ounce of chemistry with the person whatsoever, it was just that one leading night of the sweetest sin. You got to get married. You got to adapt. You got to do everything. And that stuff is hard on anybody. So I just feel like him in this situation, I want him to walk away. I really do. I want him to walk away. And if it's still meant to be, it will be. Because this, you getting him getting frustrated, and then him pointing the finger. Like now, he's starting to point the finger at Trisha a little bit. I'm seeing that more, but he
Yeah.
still has more of the animosity towards Marquez. And I don't think Marquez is the issue. Well, at least not in this part. Now
I
he
don't
is the
think
issue in some part.
Markel's has been the issue in Trish and Ken's relationship. I feel like he is recently an issue because the show is going to force them to talk about the fact that she's still married. But I think that Ken is probably the type to do something for Trish. And then you, right after he does something for her, remind her, like, hey, when you going to get divorced, are you going to marry me? It's like manipulation reversed, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah,
he's not
no,
innocent at all. He's trash.
yeah, absolutely. But that was it. That was all I'm gonna talk about with that scene because I just felt like you're complaining, but you have the answer. You need to walk
Right.
away. You have the answer. She's not ready for this divorce because I guarantee if you walk away, she's gonna file the papers. At some point, she's gonna miss you. So if it was meant to, that's only if it was meant to be. Now, if it wasn't meant to be, then I don't know what to tell you. But I just feel like you doing way too much on these people's cameras in this time. But the next thing we're gonna talk about is the scene with Nell inviting Trisha over to her house. The first thing Nell wanted to talk about was Martell. She wanted because for some reason we got to go back down this rabbit hole. Nell wanted all the details. So you was at Martell's house. What was y'all doing? Y'all was watching a movie. What was y'all talking about? Y'all was talking about mail. What y'all talking about? She was just trying to get answer, and I'm like, here, Trisha finna go. She finna lie again. I don't understand why y'all are trying to get this story. I feel like people are asking her this story and then meeting up with each other behind her back to compare notes to see if you get the same story. At this point, I feel like that's what everybody's doing. But she tells Nell that no, me and Martell, we were talking about exercising, and all he wanted to do was talk about Mel and the kids, and I just want to talk about working out. I just want to talk about, I didn't come here to be no therapist. And the moment he realized that I wasn't here to listen, he told me to leave, and I did. Now I'm gonna ask y'all in the audience because we're not stupid, right? Do that sound like something Martell would do?
No.
Exactly. I would say 50% of that may be true. Maybe he did want to talk about Mel and the kids and how he was wronged in the situation. He probably did do that. But the other half of that talking about watching a movie and all this talking about exercise and stuff, I don't believe that to anything. I do not. I believe that he was probably trying to put the moves on her. Maybe she fell for it. Maybe she didn't. I don't know. But that story do not sound right whatsoever. Because the way you felt slighted when y'all were first introduced on camera, it felt like there was more, and I'm still sticking with that. And the fact that you couldn't keep this lie straight the entire time further proves evidence of why I feel the way that I feel. That's all I'm going to say. But then they didn't talk about the situation with Marquez and Ken and how that situation, she says that we never have any problems. Like when we meet up, it's only the aftermath that we have problems. It's only the after effect because he never does what he's supposed to do and he never sees the kids and all this. And I'm like, girl, I don't really care about this because you know what? At the end of the day, I don't trust what she says. And she said, and I asked her what happened with her kids. Like he said he needed to go find himself, right? She go, yeah, he needed to come find himself. But meanwhile, I was going through a lot. I had lost two parents, which is extremely sad because she lost her parents 7 months apart. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. And then when she said that, she had her sister died in her arms, like her daughter had to watch her try to pump life into her sister. I couldn't imagine that either. So part of me wants to be serious right now and just say that is hard on anybody, y'all. That is hard for anyone, and especially when her daughter being as young as she is to having to witness that is absolutely insane. So, Mrs. Best, how do you feel about this story or this situation?
I feel for her. You could tell Trish has a lot of trauma she needs to address. However, I think the more important part of the trauma, it seems like Marquez was feeling away and wanting to find himself, which is common in couples that have been together since high school and things of that nature. I am a couple that's gone through that in my relationship. I've been with my spouse since 16. So it seems like they both changed at some point and he wanted to go off and figure himself out, pursue his dreams. And it sounds like she was just like, F it, just go. Because she probably was emotionally overwhelmed with all of the people that she cared about dying back to back to back. So I think that could be part of the reason why she's not divorcing him, because it's like she knows she told him to leave and then got upset
Mm.
at him for leaving. That's literally she said. Now, some will be like, oh, well, he shouldn't have left. But this is different from the traditional relationship. They've been together since high school. They've grown up together. They're figuring themselves out as adults. So they probably want to stay together, but he had to figure some stuff out. And he probably changed during that time. And it sounds like she shut down and she may not want to divorce him yet because she's like, well, wait, I did tell him to go. It sounds like she acknowledges some of her part. I think she's disappointed in how he's become a parent since leaving to figure stuff out,
Yeah.
which I think that part is fair because he obviously has not been very valid. But this also tells me that people like Ken, who she also started talking to, if we pay attention to her timeline, around the time that all of these people passed away, sounds like Ken stepped in and took advantage of her because she was sad and all of that. So I think that's part of why she may not want to marry Ken. But at the same time, I'm looking at her like you trying to paint this man as a really bad person, like he just left the family. But like Kevin Reynolds said, bitch, your story changed again because now it's I told him to go. When before she made it seem like
He just
Marquez
did.
just left,
Yep.
like he just abandoned the family. But it was actually a discussion, it sounds like, that they had had several times. So I feel for Trish. I want her to get help with her grief, but this bitch is a lie.
It just made you just brought back a really good point. Then it was like, well, then Trish, why didn't you tell him to take the kids with him? If this was really all going on, why didn't you tell him to take the kids? Because not like he don't have help. His family comes from money. So it's not like
Probably
it would have been a problem.
because the family's back where they were living. So I feel like she may not have wanted to disrupt the stability of the kids. And that part makes sense. But if you could take accountability when you just crying about all that you went through, then why are you like publicly shaming this man? So he left and you guys had agreed for him to leave. And while gone, you decided to get with another nigga? Let's talk about that part. Cause it that now I understand some of his anger. She admits to telling him to go. They discussed it. This was not meant to be a separation or a divorce. He was finding himself as a person. And in the midst of what was discussed, people died, and then she hopped on the next nigga's dick. So Trish is really just killing all of her credibility with me. Like I feel for her, but y'all didn't discuss separation. You was just finding yourself and you went and got a whole new man and had y'all kids around them. So I understand Marquez's anger, but at the same time, he could be a little more present. But I'm starting to
He can
understand
be a little
Marquez.
more present, and he can actually stop taking some of this so personal. Because at the end of the day, you weren't there when she made the decision to move this man in. You weren't there through the situations of your kids and how he was able to form the relationships and everything. So I kind of feel like that's kind of an oxymoron for you to say, well, he needed to come introduce himself to me or anything. Well, if you were there, he could have done all of that. So that's why I say I don't give Marquez a pass. I don't. Because I feel like some of the stuff he could have been present for. But what I am not going to dismiss him for is the fact that Trisha told him, okay, go find yourself because I'm going through a lot, losing parents and stuff. That's
He
what I'm not going to allow.
lied, which pisses me off because parents are entitled to go through stuff as well, and sometimes that may
Yes.
make them a little less present. But for the bulk of these kids' life, it sounds like he was there, he was present, and his family was supportive as well. So it's like to come on here and try and paint this black man as like the traditional negative stereotype was a black man who just abandoned his family because he wanted to chase a dream that you didn't view as valid. When y'all discussed this as a very couple and you said go on and go, then you attack him for not supporting you through your family stuff. But he says he tried to, and you acknowledge he tried to, and you told him just go because that's how she dealt with her grief. So she's trying to attack him for all these major things that she actually asked him to do. So I'm looking at Trish like, girl. And that explains why them kids was so calm. And the son even want to say like y'all be making problems. Like the son was insinuating that Trish and Ken be so wrapped up in the drama making stuff difficult. Like,
Mhm.
but he can describe his dad's characteristics, behaviors, how he reacts with no issue, which tells me his dad was in his life. So Trish and Ken can miss me with the bullshit. I'm sick of them. I'm sick of his steroids. I'm tired of all of his earrings. I'm sick of it.
All right, let's move on. Yeah, this Dexy, I can't really talk all the way through. I'm not going to even because for those of y'all who are new to my channel, those of you who've been rocking with me understand I did lose my father in June of last year, and it's tough. So to see, nail at the actual grave site, that's something I've yet to do, y'all, and I'm so scared to do it because I don't know how emotionally I will be. But just to see her break down and when she literally got on that grass and was crying and describing the things that her mother did, my heart just went. I just wanted to hug her, and y'all, I don't even care for Nell like that. But like, it just really broke my heart. Like that scene was Carlos. Some things should just not be aired. I'm sure she signed off to do it, but it's something that you shouldn't just do because that was triggering.
I fast forwarded through the entire scene. I have not lost a parent, but my closest friends, two of them have passed away recently. So it's hard for me to see graves and things of that nature. But I feel like if that's hard for me and I haven't lost a parent, then anyone who has lost a parent probably really struggled. This is what I mean by long drawn out scene. I think that even though people are on reality television, the audience expects them to have some type of privacy with certain situations and topics. This was one of those things.
Absolutely, because it was hard for me to even. I cried literally because I'm just like I was thinking of my dad. I'm like, oh my gosh, like the things that I wish I could tell him, the things that I wish he could know about me and things like that. Like there's time that I did not even, there's been time I didn't even speak to my dad for like months at a time, and I feel immediately guilt behind that. So I'm just thinking that I'm looking at now like, dang, I'm not ready to do this. Now that's gonna prolong my decision to come up back home and do that now because looking at this scene. So
See, then that's why Carlos should be very careful what you air. Some of it would have been okay, but we don't need to see every moment that someone breaks because people are watching, and you're the example of a person who can become impacted in a
yeah,
way that you don't know if you would have been ready or not to do that, but now something makes you feel a little bit discomfort, and you're valid in that. But that's the bullshit that the producer. I'm
it
tired
is
of
because
that man with
like
his bald head and high pitched voice. He needs to do better and seek help.
because I would not air this. If I was the executive producer, I would not air that. I would let that be a moment that if she wanted a copy of it, I would give it to her. But I'm not airing that. I'm just not going to do that because, or I would have put a disclaimer up to say, look, for anyone who's lost anyone, this scene will be difficult to watch, please. Because it was really difficult for me to sit there and watch her fall to that ground like that and just put her like her head over her mother's. Like, I can't now, as I told you, I don't know how I'm going to be when that time comes for me. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do that. So yeah, that scene was hard. But we're gonna move on from there because it really didn't touch much. It was just a bunch. It was very, once again, my heart goes out to Nell. I really felt for her in this moment. Like I really did. So now we move on to Nell's. I guess this is going to be a model's paint, body paint situation that Destiny's putting together. And I'm just like, there's two things wrong with the beginning of this episode. One, why is Destiny the person doing this? I feel like if anybody should have did it, it should have been Mel. That's the first thing. And two, body painting with only two models. Okay. Okay, Destiny. Okay. So the ladies get there, and all but one or two, all but two. Um, and as they're getting there, Kimmy clocks that Trisha and Mel have not spoken to each other. So she immediately begins the conversation with Trisha, Mel, I noticed y'all did not speak to each other and anything, everything okay between you? Um, and Mel points out, she goes, yeah, so since we're here, Kimmy, I understand you and Trish had a conversation, that I was a topic of conversation of. And Kimmy, Trish, she came back to me and tell me some of the things that you had said, and I didn't know that you felt that way. Do we have a problem? Trish said, "No, we don't have a problem. I just didn't appreciate what you said at my son's graduation that happened. It was very disheartening." And she was like, "Well, what did I say? Like, what was the conversation?" So they flashback. Trisha getting frustrated at Marquez and Mel making a sly comment that she still loves him, which I think she does. I'm not going to lie. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I heard you guys say something.
I didn't say
Okay.
anything.
Oh, I thought I heard you. Sorry. I
I'm on
was like,
this
oh
StreamYard app. You know this app be tripping. I'm so sorry.
no, it's okay. I wanted to make sure I didn't cut you off. That's why I was like, oh, let me not do that. But and so Mel says it was a joke, and Trish like, no, it wasn't a joke to me. Like you're talking about me and everything and my family and all this. And Mel was like, look, it was a joke. And if you want to paint me to be messy, then you need to be pointing the finger at everybody because everybody in here is messy. And I agree with that. Everybody has had a comment on Trish since she's come on this show and realized that there may have been some link to Martell. So now Trish, out of whatever moment she wanted to have that energy for Mel because I feel like it was easy and I feel like it's a way for to get everybody else on your side because the majority of these women have had an issue with Mel in pertaining to either their marriage or their dynamics. So it was kind of like I saw what Trish was doing, and it was very one stupid because it's like this is the executive producer. This is someone that can make the decision of whether or not you stay or go. And then
Mm.
two, I feel like what she said ain't no different than someone accusing you of sleeping with Martell, like Stormy did allegedly, or it's like your friends are just as bad. So Trisha Shamar with the passive aggressive disdain towards me was exhausting. It was because it's like I don't get it. But Mel got her right back. Mel was like, "Look, you can try it if you want to. This ain't the one you want." Mel said she don't care about them broad shoulders and the muscles. She'll get with you too. But I just felt like it was just weird. It was just like, why have that energy for her when everyone else has played in your face?
How you gonna have that energy for a woman's house that you was in, that you have confirmed being in, when she was still married to her husband? Regardless of the situation, you should have immediately approached Mel in the first opportunity that you were alone with her to address the issue so it didn't become something that was so talked about. But instead, you came on here bullshitting episode after episode. This is the first time she has ever even given a clear explanation of what happened between her and Martell at that house was with Nell. Why couldn't you answer them questions before? Why would it be so hard to repeat? So she, and the thing of it is, I'm not a Love Marriage Huntsville fan, so I don't take the sides of many people on this show and care, not a millimeter or none of that. But Mel deserved the conversation. And I feel like Trish is just trying to have a problem with her because she sees that everyone else has a problem with her. So that's the easiest person to have a problem with. She's a follower. and I can't stand to follow her, especially one that wears shirts she should not wear with the muscles.
I just feel like, yeah, it was a tactic to get everybody on your side, and I'm glad none of them really fell for it, with the exception of maybe Destiny. I kind of felt like the ladies were like, okay, like we all have had a joke at your expense. Like it's not that big of a deal for her saying that you could still be in love with your husband, because I feel like it's the same thing. I feel like Marquez is still in love with her. So like it's just stupid. That was just really stupid of her to do. And then we get a moment of the dun dun dun. Sunny walks in, and y'all, I'm not gonna lie, I was happy to see Sunny for whatever reason. Because every time I see Sunny, it's just a stint to Destiny even more, for Destiny to now have to be in a situation where she's not looking around, where something has to be confronted. And if it were me, I wouldn't care if she walked in the room or not. I'm over the situation. Like it is what it is. Hi, how you doing? It's nice to see you. Your hair looked great this time, and you did it.
Sunny hasn't been getting on my nerves in the last few episodes. I don't know, maybe changing her hair so that her forehead is able to hide
It's
is
something.
helping her to like relax, but she's also looking a little thick in the right places. So I will say maybe there's other things going on, but I don't mind her no more. And I do expect her to be cool with Mel. She was a producer of some sort on the show. Mel is an executive producer, so I'm sure she had a much closer relationship with them than the cast would. Um, but just for the little preview for next week, Destiny. You say you don't care. You say you moved on before she got with him, right? Then why do you still have this energy?
I'm like, I know y'all,
Move
I know a
on.
lot of y'all gonna say it's because they were friends, and like you don't do that to your friends. And I'm
But
just
if
like,
you don't want to
okay.
be friends with somebody, then why are you going to engage with them all the time? She would get more of a response from the audience if she ignored her in the funniest ways. Pull a Karen
I'm
Huger, just
telling
ignore her all the way. But to be doing all of this, and I hope I can take my own advice. Destiny, you and your storage unit can go straight to hell with the cup with the mug shot coffee cups. Enough.
you had sent me a mugshot of LeBeric. He had got arrested recently, allegedly. Someone had just sent me that. I'm just
Birds
like,
of a feather.
I don't care about LeBeric getting arrested. I don't. I don't care. That doesn't vindicate Destiny for me because he got arrested. I think it was for domestic violence, allegedly. I'm gonna say allegedly because I didn't even read it. I don't care about that. I really don't. Because at the end of the day, she wasn't transparent about that relationship. We never know how it began and ended. We don't know anything about that relationship. All we know is that when Destiny got arrested earlier last year is because she was using his name allegedly for a utility bill. Allegedly. I have to say allegedly because that case is still ongoing. But I'm just like, I can't. Y'all, Destiny is such a flop. But y'all want, but the fans wanted Destiny to come back for whatever reason. I didn't. I would much rather have Tiffany. I really would.
You know what
But
I
I
will
know.
say? Tiffany
Mhm.
and Destiny are both messy in the same ways. The only difference is Tiffany, with her mess, is just going to own it. She's going to ask you the question in an inappropriate way, in
Yeah,
an inappropriate place, and she's going to ask you in a blunt way so that she could just get straight to it. Destiny is going to try and act like she's somebody that's really trying to bring peace on the group, but the bitch is messy. She's a messy felon.
that's why I love Tiffany. I know a lot of people hated Tiffany. I love Tiffany because Tiffany got right to the point. If Tiffany was like the fan ear, like we could whisper in Tiffany's ear, she finna ask the question we want to know. That was Tiffany's purpose. That's what I said. Like that was a I wish they did better by Tiffany. I do. I really wish like the fans were better to Tiffany because the fact that one, Trisha's story has changed 11 times from episode one when she came back to where we are today. If Tiffany were here, that wouldn't happen. So I'm just saying. And so I'm just like, okay, okay. We'll see if they get another season. We'll see. I know Kevin Reynolds. I know you don't like Tiffany. Where's Shayna at when I need her? Because Shayna is the main one that be calling me out, talking about no to Tiffany. Shout out to Shayna underscore MCD. Y'all go subscribe to my girl's channel as well. I'm gonna start putting her information in my description box too. But But yes, we need something on the show. I don't know what it is. I need a Tiffany-esque person on the show. If y'all gonna come back next season and we gotta deal with Trisha and Ken, I need a Tiffany-esque person. Somebody got to have a messy Tiffany friend somewhere. Mel, you ain't got no more messy Tiffany friend. Like Tiffany was your only friend that was this messy. That was it. Okay. Okay. All right. But that was Love and Marriage Huntsville, you guys. It was a really okay episode, a lot more emotional than I would like it to be. But you know, it is what it is. Next week is the season finale, I believe. So, you know, I'm glad to get rid of this show because it was a headache. But thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. The next recap I have is in a few minutes. We are going to do Real Housewives of Potomac. And then we're going to close it out with Married to Medicine. So please make all those lives, like, comment, and subscribe to not only my channel, but Mrs. Best as well. And we'll see you on the next live. Goodbye.